Welcome to the latest installment of the 30-Minute Workout Series. My name is Jeff Bartels, and I'm joined today by my colleagues Lou Holland, Matt Wunsch, and Stacy Morikin. In today's session, we're going to look at how we can manage and archive communications on Civil 3D cloud projects. First, we're going to take care of a little bit of housekeeping. As far as webinar logistics are concerned, when you connected to today's session, by default, you are connected using the computer audio. You can also switch to phone audio using the audio settings down at the bottom of the screen. If you are having issues with your audio, sometimes simply disconnecting and reconnecting to the webinar is all it takes to get that working again. If you have questions, please put those in the Q&A pane. That's the most efficient way for folks behind the scenes to find and respond to those questions. And no need to take notes. These sessions are recorded. Anybody who has registered for the session will get access to a webinar recording. I'm bringing up the safe harbor statement as well. I don't anticipate making any forward-leaning or future statements about product development. Having said that, in the event I do, please don't make any purchasing decisions based on future-leaning comments because things can and often do change. If you're unfamiliar with the 30-Minute Workout concept, this is a platform that we put together for the purpose of helping folks get up to speed using Autodesk's civil infrastructure applications. We've been doing this now for a couple of years. Over the past couple of months, we've been focusing on how to use Civil 3D with Autodesk's cloud platform. During these sessions, we take a step-by-step approach to the material, focusing on the how and why. We include practical examples where we can. We do have some ground rules for the sessions. Some of the examples that we show may be abstract in nature. We do that on purpose. This way we can focus solely on how a tool works. Once you understand how the tool works, you can apply it in whatever situation works best for you. We value your time, so we are committed to starting and ending on time. Once again, these sessions are recorded, so no need to take notes. Probably the most important ground rule is please put those questions in the Q&A pane. We've got a lot of things to talk about today. This is going to be much like two 30-minute workouts because we're going to be looking at two major features. We're going to start by looking at the Correspondence tool. This tool allows us to aggregate project-related emails within our cloud-based project. We'll look at how we can create emails from within the web browser. We'll look at how we can have emails automatically filed into the web browser when we send them from like Outlook or Gmail or other applications like that. We'll look at how we can drag and drop existing emails into the platform and file them there. We'll also look at how we can search and filter emails. Then we'll talk about the Meetings feature. With the Meetings feature, we'll look at how we can create agendas, invite members. We'll look at how we can assign and track action items. We'll also look at how we can generate meeting minutes as well as much more. The wonderful thing about these two tools is that historically, email and meetings are where decisions are made. It's where important topics are discussed and sometimes where work is assigned. Typically, emails and meetings are handled using multiple external applications. By using these dedicated tools within the cloud platform, we can aggregate all of these communications into one place and have a nice searchable repository for all of this metadata. At the end of today's session, I'm going to be sharing some additional resources if you'd like more information about the topics that we talk about. As always, this is going to be a PowerPoint-free zone. We'll be working live in the application for the duration of our time together. Let me drop out of this. As you can see, I'm in the construction cloud. I'm in a project called Zurich Phase 3, and I am in the Docs module. For that reason, we can see the directory structure for this project. I've got a simple directory structure in this case. If I select some of these folders, you can see that I do have a little bit of content in this project. I'd like to start by talking about the Correspondence feature. This is the one that allows us to aggregate email. You will not find that feature within the Docs module. I'm going to open the product picker, and we can find the Correspondence tool and the Meetings tool, for that matter, inside the Design Collaboration module or the Model Coordination module. You will need ABC Pro to have access to these modules. You will also need to activate these modules for your project to see them here. I'm going to choose Design Collaboration. And in the Design Collaboration module, I'm going to select Correspondence. And here is where I would see a list of all of the emails that have been filed or stored for this project. Currently, I don't have any. Note that I can create an email from here by using this blue button. I'm going to go ahead and click that. And I can create emails within this environment much like I can if I was in Outlook or some other email application. We're just going to work through the dialog box from top down. We can assign a type to this correspondence. By default, it's general correspondence. These types can be used to organize the correspondence, especially if we get several of these. We'll look at how we can create new types here in just a little bit. I'm going to enter a subject. I'm just going to type need additional topo. I'm sure you can come up with a more interesting subject than that if you're sending an email to one of your stakeholders. In the to area, if I open this up, this is where I can select the people that I'd like to send this correspondence to. In this list, I can see all the members of my project. For this example, I'm going to choose Alan. I'll send one of these to myself, and we'll send one to Morty. Note that I can also send correspondence to non-members. I'm not limited to sending these to members only. And then I can go to the carbon copy area. If I open this list, When I'm dealing with carbon copy or with the to option, I can see all the members of my project. I can also send correspondence to a role or to a company. This can be a great way to send emails to groups of people. The correspondence can also be private. We'll talk about this private toggle a little bit later. I'm going to come down to content. Here's where I can enter the bulk of the information of my email. And we have several items here where I can adjust the formatting of that. I'm just going to type, we need additional topo in the southwest corner of site. Let's drag this down a little bit further. Just like with other email applications, I can add attachments to my email. And I can click the Choose Files button here. I can select files from my local hard drive to attach those. Note that we have a status item here. I'm going to turn that toggle on. If I do this, it allows me to associate additional metadata with this correspondence. There is a status setting that I can select. I can also change this over time. There's also a due date if this particular correspondence involves any type of decision that needs to be made or action that needs to be taken care of. Let me click Send. When I do, that correspondence is sent to those people. We can then see the correspondence is listed here. I now have one in my overall list. We can see it's organized by the type, and then this is the first correspondence. I can see the description as well as some of the body text of the email. I can see who it's from, who it's to, the sent date, status, and due date. If you select the email, it will take you into the email itself, where you can see a lot of the same information that we filled out within that dialog box. The one extra thing that we can see here is references. I can associate this email with a file that is a part of my project. Now, I didn't have the reference option when I created the email, and we'll discuss that in just a second. But after the email is sent, or the correspondence is sent, I can associate a reference. When I choose reference, you can see that there are many things associated with the project that I can reference. Many of these things we haven't talked about, and quite frankly, a lot of them aren't even set up on this project. We have talked about files, though. If I click Files, it'll bring up the directory structure, and I can choose a file that I would like to associate with this correspondence. For this example, I'll just choose the corridor file. Okay, so we can see that show up there. So in the event you'd like to have some type of file corresponding with the email, you can do that. Let me go out here. While that's working its way across the interweb to my email account, I would like to talk for a second about the types. We have general correspondence as the default. Here in the correspondence area, if I come down to settings and go to types, I just want to show you that you can create additional types if you'd like. General correspondence is the default. There's the initials for that. I can choose to create an additional type. These types can be used to organize your correspondence. So you can organize these by recipient, by project phase, by industry, whatever you like. For right now, I'm just going to type sample because this is arbitrary. It can be anything that you want. I'm going to use a code SAMP for that. So very easy to create your own types. Note that just like we saw when we talked about issues a few weeks ago, these types can be active or inactive. If I select these, I can deactivate these in the event I have several and I don't want to use some of them. Let's go back to correspondence. Just want to show you that if I create a correspondence now, you can see that I can organize that under a different type. Okay, now I'm going to do one of the most dangerous things you can do during a live presentation. I am going to bring up my email. And in my email, here we can see the email that was sent from the cloud. And we can see all the same information in here that we filled out within that dialog box. I've got the subject, the type, status, due date. We can see who it's from and who it went to. I can also see the content of the email. Remember that I can send these emails to members and non-members. If you sent the email to a non-member, this would be all the information that they would get. Okay, if you send it to a member, members will also have this View Correspondence button. If we click the View Correspondence button, it'll actually open a new tab, and it will take me right into that email. Remember, we were here a second ago. The benefit of the members is the members would be able to see the references. Okay, that's the value of the reference feature and the value of being a member. Non-members cannot get access to a project, so therefore they wouldn't be able to see these references. So just wanted to show you what the difference is there. All right, let's close this up, and I'm going to go back to my email. So this was sent from the project. If I reply to this, I can reply to the email, and any replies to this will automatically be logged within the cloud platform. I'll say this is my reply. I've attached an image as well. Let's go to attach file. I'll grab this site image and I'll click send. There we go. Let me close this. We'll go back. Now, while we're waiting for that to work its way across the interweb back into the platform here, let's talk about some other options. We've seen that I can send an email using this Create tool. What if I would like to send an email using Outlook or Gmail or another application? Maybe I'd rather not send it through this web browser. If I open this menu, we have an option here called Project Email Address. Each project includes a dedicated email address. I can select this and I can copy it to my clipboard. And then if I was in Outlook or if I was in Gmail or some other email application, as long as I use that email address as one of the recipients, that email would automatically be logged within the cloud environment. So I can add that to a group if I'm in Outlook. Anytime I send an email to that group, the emails will automatically show up here. So we can do that if we want. I can also, let's say I just got the construction cloud and I've got a project that's been underway and I've got several emails that already exist. How can I bring those existing emails into this environment? Well, knowing what we know now, I could simply forward those emails to this project email address and they would be logged here. But even easier, I can click to upload existing emails into this environment. If I use the upload option, I can click choose files and you can see that there's several file types here associated with emails. I could grab those and upload those into the environment. Even easier, I can drag and drop in here. Let me bring back my Outlook for a second, and I've got an existing email. I'm going to drag and drop that in, and then I'll click upload. Now, I dragged one email for this example, but you could drag a whole series of emails if you wanted to bring them into this environment. Okay, let me close this up, and I'm going to hit F5 to refresh this. And when I refresh, good, they're both here. So this was the original email that I sent. If I select the email, we can see the entire thread. Okay, not a whole lot here yet, just two of them. I go back. Note that if an email has threads, we can open the bracket here and we can see the individual threads. If you select on the thread, it will take you to that overall view and highlight that thread. Remember, when I replied, I added an attachment. If I click the attachment, we can view that here right through the web browser. Likewise, if I come down to the More button next to the attachment, I can save attachments right to the project. So I could say Save to Files. This gives me access to that directory structure, and I can choose to save this file within my Images folder. So I did it with an image, but you can do it with just about anything. Let me close that up. We'll come out here. Here we can see that email that I drag and dropped. When I bring that in, you can see that it didn't have the opportunity to use status or due date, but I could assign a status or due date to these after the fact, after these items come in. That's possible. Let's talk for a second about that privacy setting. When a project admin views this correspondence area, they will be able to see every email in here. The project members can only see an email which they have sent or for which they are a recipient. Having said that, if I click on an email, we see the toggle here for the private correspondence. I had the same toggle when I created the email originally. If I turn this on, we can see the icon right there. A private correspondence means that the only people that can see this email is the sender and the recipients. Essentially, the project admin is not able to see these. Okay, and we can prove that. That's what we're all about here, trust but verify. If I open this email and I remove that toggle, you can see it says the correspondence will also be visible for project admins. So that is what that privacy setting does. If you need that privacy setting, you can do that. Okay, once I get quite a few emails in here, I can use the search features to look at these. So I can use this search box to look at the subject line. For instance, if I type the word topo, you can see how it shows me any correspondence that includes that in the subject line. For more powerful filtering, I can open up the filter item to the side and I can filter these by type. Remember, we talked about the organizational aspect of this. So this is a real quick way to isolate correspondence based on type. I can also isolate these by who it was sent from, who it was intended for or received. If I say Alan Gilbert, for instance, you can see there's the only one that's associated with Alan. I can filter them by status. I can filter them by due date and sent date. Okay, so using the correspondence tool, I can very easily aggregate all of my project-related emails into a single searchable place and have access to all of this metadata, all the names, all the dates, and all the decisions that were made. Next, let's talk about the Meetings tool. Meetings can be found right here within the Design Collaboration module or within the Model Coordination module. I'm going to choose this. When you go into Meetings, you will find that Meetings is almost identical to email. When I go to Meetings, I can see a list of all the meetings that are associated with this project. Currently, I don't have any. I can create a meeting right from here by clicking the Create Meeting button. When you create a meeting, the meeting starts out as an agenda, and this is meeting number 1. I can give this meeting a name. I'm going to call it Weekly Design Progress Meeting. I can then pick a date. We'll say that this meeting is going to be tomorrow, and it's going to be at 1 o'clock p.m. It's going to be a 1-hour meeting, so we'll set this to 2 o'clock p.m. And then I could type in a location, any location I want. I could say conference room. I could say this is going to be at the project site. I could also enter the name of a virtual meeting tool that I'm going to use. If you are using a virtual meeting, most of them will give you a video conference link. You could paste that conference link right here. Also, the Construction Cloud has integrations with some of the more popular meeting tools. This has recognized that I have both Teams and Zoom on my machine. If you have these, for instance, I'm going to click Zoom, and it will automatically generate the conference link for me. Now, if this is the first time you've used either of these items, it will walk you through how to connect that application to the Construction Cloud. At this point, let's come over here. Notice it says changes saved automatically. There are no save buttons here. Everything that we do is saved. Let me jump out to meetings for a second. At the highest level meetings here, you can see there's the meeting that I created. I can see there's one meeting in here, and there's the date range for it. The meetings are stored as a series. The intent is that each meeting is probably going to be reoccurring. There's probably going to be multiple instances of that meeting. If I expand this, you can see here's the first instance of this meeting. There's the agenda, and I can see some of the information about that. If I had multiple meetings in here, we would be able to see all of them listed underneath this heading. If I click agenda, it'll take me right back in. So let's work on the agenda a little bit more. The meeting agendas are broken up into description, meeting discussion. This is where we create topics and items of discussion, summary, and meeting attachments. For the description, I'm going to write weekly meeting to discuss design progress and challenges. For the discussion topics, maybe my first topic is just going to be design progress. You could come up with whatever topics or items you like. Maybe for items, we'll talk about grading, and I will add an additional item here for utilities. Maybe we'll do one more topic since we're going to be talking about challenges. We'll do design challenges, and then for an item, we'll say maybe survey needs, and we'll do another one for environmental needs. Okay, as I create items, notice that each item includes these additional accoutrements. I've got a status for each of these. I can expand that and I can change the status. This could be changed now, or I could change it during the meeting. So it's additional metadata that I can have associated with each item. There's a flag that I can use. The flag is used to help find these items later. If I'm doing a search, I'm going to leave the flag turned on. We'll look at that in a second. I can use the trash can to delete an item. If I come down to this end, I can find out who created the item and when it was last updated. The most powerful button we have associated with items is the More button. I'm going to click the one next to Utilities here. Using this is how I can associate things to an item. I can add attachments. Much like we add attachments to an email, I can grab files that are on my local machine. Think exhibits. That's what this really is. I'm adding exhibits for my meeting. So are those files on my local machine, or are those files in the project? If I choose references, for instance, once again, I can reference a lot of different things associated with this project. Since I'm on utilities here, maybe I'll go to files, and maybe when we get to this discussion topic, I'm going to go to the directory structure here, and I'll choose maybe the site plan. So I now have an exhibit ready for that particular topic. And since I have added a reference, we can see references over here on the right. There is a pane for that. We can open and close it using the references button. The references are stored two ways. I can click meeting if I want to see references that are associated with the overall meeting. I don't have any of those. If I wanted to add a reference that's just, spans the entire meeting, I could do that here. If I click items, this will show me references that are associated with the individual items. And if I hover over this, it'll even highlight it. If I click, I can now see the exhibit, if you will, associated with that item. And if I click on that, if we were in the meeting, we were talking about this item, we could go right to it, click on it. Now I've got a CAD file here, but this could be a PDF. It could be any file associated with the project. All right, so I have got my agenda set. I've got my meeting information. I've got my references or my exhibits. Let's talk about invitees. If I click invitees, this is another pane. Okay, I can open and close that using this button. I can add invitees by clicking the Add Invitees button. When I do that, I can see all the members of my project. I can select the people I'd like to invite to this meeting. Note that I can also include non-members, so I'm not limited to members only for these meetings. If I choose non-member, I can enter an email address for them. I'll choose Confirm. When you add members to a meeting, they are segregated by organizers and invitees. Each person will have a More button, and you can change their designation here, so I could make Alan an organizer, or I could remove him from the meeting. Likewise, myself, I could make myself an invitee. However, I can't do that just yet because you have to have at least one organizer for the meeting. All right, everything is set up. Next thing I'll do is I will send the official notification for this meeting. In the upper right corner, I will click the More button and I'll choose Share with Invitees. This will send an email letting folks know that this meeting has been set up. It'll provide some information about the agenda. When I send this, since I work with some of these people and they have no idea that this is coming, normally we would just say share with all invitees. But just not to disturb some of the people I work with, I am going to say share with selected invitees. I'm just going to send it to myself. Maybe I'll send one to Morty too, because I control his email address. Here's where I can send this to additional email addresses. And basically what they will get is an email. Let me click share. What they will get when that is sent is an email that includes a PDF of the agenda with the meeting link and all the information. The members of the project will also get, in addition to the PDF, they will get a hyperlink that will take them back here. And the benefit of being a member is if they click the hyperlink and go here, they can review the meeting. They can also review the references ahead of time. And if they click this button in the corner, they can use this to add the meeting to their calendar. Okay, so that's one of the benefits of being a member. The non-members would just get a PDF of the information that's here. Let's talk about meeting day. I'm going to go back to meetings to see the overall list. On the day of the meeting, if we were going to simulate that, we'll go ahead and expand this. The organizer of the meeting could open this up. They might click this link to go to the conference. They might share their screen. And then as people started filing in for the meeting, we can use the toggles over here to keep track of attendance. When we eventually finalize the meeting, we will have a record of who attended. So here's how you can do that. And then you can use this agenda as your note-taking device during the meeting. When we go through grading here, maybe we'll say that we talked about that and everything was resolved. We can close that one out. Maybe utilities, we saw how we could view the reference. We talked through that. Everything was resolved. We can close that out. We could put additional notes on there as well. Design challenges. For survey needs, we're going to say need additional topo in right-of-way area. If I click this More button, here's where I can assign work to people. This is how we can keep track of things that we've asked people to do. I am going to assign that to Alan Gilbert, and I could put a due date on this as well. We'll say that Alan's going to have that by Friday. Environmental needs, we'll say need permitting for grading in wetland area. Maybe we'll assign that to Morty. That's going to be a task he's going to take on, and we'll put a due date on that as well. Morty's going to have that done by Friday. So as we're working our way through the meeting, we can add additional topics if additional things come up, but really nice, we can keep track of who is responsible for what tasks and what the due dates are. This is where we can summarize the meeting. When the meeting is complete, we can convert this from an agenda into finalized meeting minutes. We can do that by using the menu up at the top. I can choose minutes. That essentially locks the meeting. So these are now non-editable. They can be edited by the organizer. They can still do it, but the other people that view this can't make changes. So now I've got a record of the meeting. I could then, after the meeting is over, we could say share with invitees, and we could share this record with the folks that attended so they have an idea of the items that were discussed and the tasks that were required. There is a filter option here. For instance, there's a button here for my action items. If I click that, it'll filter for anything that's associated with me that's open or ongoing, which is kind of nice. Let me clear these. However, just to see some of these, I could say, show me the items that are assigned to Alan Gilbert. And you can see how it collapses everything except for Alan's. Show me the items that are of a particular status. We could do that as well. Remember when we flagged that one item? If I click that, you can see how it collapses everything. So if you have long agendas, this is a really easy way to find the items that you're looking for. One final thing. After this meeting is over, we're probably going to have a follow-up. If I click this button, I can say create follow-up. And when I do, I can pick a date. We'll say this is going to be on the 21st. Let me choose confirm. Note what it does here. It creates a second installment under the same meeting heading. I will have to put another conference link code in here, but notice how it brings the open items forward. Any items that were closed fall behind. They stay with the previous meeting. So I can now work on my agenda for the new meeting. It invites all the same members. I can add additional people, or I could remove people from this if necessary. And then in the overall meetings list, there's a filter out here as well. I can see now I've got a finalized meeting and one that's still open. Using the filter item, this is where I can filter all of my meetings based on date or a date range, or I can filter these based on whether they've been closed out or still open. Okay, dangerously close to the end of the session. Let me go back to my PowerPoint here. During today's session, we talked about the correspondence tool. We looked at how we could aggregate all of our emails into one environment. We saw how we could create the emails from within the cloud. We saw how we could create the emails from Outlook or another email application. We saw how we could drag and drop emails into the environment. We looked at how we could filter and search those emails as well. We also saw how we could use the meetings feature to create an agenda. We can create discussion items, how we could invite members, add exhibits to the meeting. We saw how we could run the meeting and maintain a record of the attendance, and how we could close that out to meeting minutes and share that with the members, and how we could search for items that were assigned to different folks. When it comes to additional resources, I'm going to be sharing some additional resources. They will be putting these in the chat. Likewise, anybody who has access to this recording afterward will have access to these links. I'm going to be giving you a link to the meetings course that's found in the learnacc.autodesk.com site. This is a phenomenal video-based training tool that is going to give you even more information than what we had a chance to talk about today when it comes to the meetings. I'm also going to be giving you a link to the help documentation for the correspondence tool, another wonderful resource that will provide even more information than what we talked about today. Finally, I'm going to be giving you a link such that you can access the prior Civil 3D Cloud Collaboration session recordings that we have done. And as a courtesy, that link can also be used to sign up for the next session, which happens to be on February 27th. If you're available, we'll be getting together and talking about how we can use the cloud to share Civil 3D project files with internal and external stakeholders. We'll be looking at how we can share files both formally and informally. In the event there are any questions at this point that have gone unanswered, let me say that we will get back to you with an answer so long as we have your permission. On behalf of Matt Wunsch, Lou Holland, Stacy Morican, and myself, I want to say thank you so much for attending today's session. We hope you find value in these sessions, and we look forward to seeing you guys again at the next 30-minute workout.